My name's Denise, I'm 56, and I live in a quiet Ohio suburb where the biggest drama is usually somebody's trash cans on the wrong day. So when my own son looked me in the face in a crowded church lobby and said, "There's no place for you, Mom," it didn't even feel real at first. People heard him, people stopped talking. One lady actually froze with her little paper program halfway folded like she didn't know what to do with her hands. I just nodded like he told me the weather because I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of watching me fall apart in public. I turned and walked out, got in my car, and the only thing I let myself think was, okay, if that's the game, I'm going to finish it. I'm Denise. I'm divorced, I work the front desk at a dental office, and I've been the kind of mom who shows up. Not the Instagram kind, the real kind. The kind who picks up the phone at 2 a.m., who keeps an extra key, who buys the diapers without being asked. My son, Kyle, is 29. He married Brianna 2 years ago. She's pretty, polished, and always talking like she's reading from a script. Their baby, Noah, was my first grandchild. I kept a little photo of him taped inside my desk drawer at work, because the minute my day got stressful, I'd open it and remember there were still good things in my life. So when the baptism invitation never came, I tried to tell myself it was an accident. Then I saw Brianna's post, a full announcement, date, time, church name. Can't wait to celebrate with family. Family. I stared at that word longer than I should have. I didn't comment. I didn't text her. I texted Kyle. Just one line. Hey, I saw the baptism is Sunday. What time should I be there? He left me on red for 6 hours. Then he replied, "We're keeping it small." That was it, no explanation. No, sorry, just a door quietly closed like I was some stranger trying to walk into the wrong house. I sat at my kitchen table with my phone face down and my coffee going cold, and I thought about every small event I'd made big for him. Every birthday party I worked overtime for. Every time I chose him over my own peace. I didn't send another message, I just got dressed on Sunday anyway, because I wasn't going to let a Facebook post decide whether I showed up for my grandson. The church was one of those newer ones with bright lights and beige walls, the kind that tries to feel welcoming but still smells like fresh paint and old carpet. The lobby was packed, people in pastel dresses, men adjusting ties, babies in little white outfits. I spotted Kyle near the check-in table, laughing with Brianna's parents like he'd known them his whole life. Brianna's mom, Cynthia, saw me first. Her smile slipped like she'd forgotten which face to wear. She leaned into Brianna and said something. Brianna turned, did that quick up and down glance, and then looked away like I was a flyer somebody handed her on the street. I walked up anyway, calm, shoulders back. Kyle saw me coming and his whole body tightened. He stepped forward fast, like he was blocking a problem before it got close. I said softly, "Hi, I'm here for Noah." Kyle didn't even lower his voice. He said it loud enough for people behind me to hear. "Mom, why would you come? I told you we're keeping it small." I blinked once and said, "I'm his grandmother." Brianna finally turned and smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was the kind of smile you use when you're about to end a conversation. She said, "Denise, today is about Noah. We don't want any tension." I looked at her and said, "There isn't any tension on my side." Kyle's jaw clenched. He leaned closer, still loud, like he wanted witnesses. "There's no place for you, Mom. Not here." Behind him, Cynthia nodded like she was proud. Brianna's dad looked away at the wall. Two women near the coffee station pretended they didn't hear, but their eyes were locked on me. Nobody said, "That's her family." Nobody stepped in. The silence was so thick, it felt planned. I just stood there a second, letting Kyle's words land where he wanted them to, in front of everybody. Then I said, "Okay, one word, no fight, no scene." I turned and walked out. I didn't rush. I didn't look back. I heard a few whispers start up the second I hit the door, like the room exhaled once I was gone. In my car, I sat with my hands on the steering wheel and watched families stream past my windshield, smiling, holding gifts, acting like nothing ugly had just happened. My phone buzzed once. A text from Kyle. "Please don't make this harder than it has to be." I stared at that sentence until it felt almost funny. Like I was the one causing trouble by existing. I drove home slow, stopped at a red light, and remembered something I hadn't thought about in years. The way Kyle used to run to the door when I got home from work, yelling, "Mom, Mom, Mom," like I was the best part of his day. Somewhere between then and now, somebody taught him to be ashamed of me. When I got home, I didn't collapse. I didn't call my friends to rant. I went straight to the hall closet where I keep my important folders. Mortgage papers. My divorce agreement, insurance, old tax returns. I pulled out a thick envelope I hadn't opened since the day my dad passed, the one labeled "Trust" in his handwriting. I sat at my kitchen table, slid it open, and started reading. Halfway down the first page, my thumb stopped on a line that made my stomach go still. Because Kyle didn't just shut me out of a baptism, he shut me out while standing on something he didn't even realize I controlled. And in that moment, without saying it out loud to anyone, I decided I was done begging for a seat at tables I helped build. I sat there with that trust document flat on my kitchen table, the overhead light making the paper look almost blue. And I read the same paragraph 3 times just to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding it. My dad, Frank, had set up a small family trust before he passed. Nothing crazy rich, but enough to matter. It included a rental duplex on the east side, a brokerage account, and a life insurance payout that had been invested and grown over time. And right there in plain English, it said I was the trustee, not Kyle, not the family, me. It also said Kyle was a named beneficiary, but only under one condition: the trustee had full discretion, and distributions could be delayed or denied if the beneficiary showed financial irresponsibility, coercion, or estrangement from immediate family without cause. Estrangement without cause. I leaned back in my chair and listened to my own refrigerator humming like nothing in my world had shifted. In the church lobby, Kyle had said, "No place for you," like he was just drawing a boundary. But on paper, what he'd done wasn't just rude. It was measurable. I didn't smile. I didn't get excited. I just felt clear. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Kyle. "Bray's parents feel uncomfortable. Please respect that." He didn't say, "I'm sorry." He didn't say, "I love you." He said her parents felt uncomfortable. Like my whole job was to keep strangers comfortable while my own kid iced me out. I placed the phone face down and turned to the back page of the trust packet, where my dad's lawyer had stapled a business card years ago. A name, a number. I didn't call immediately. I made myself a sandwich first. I ate it standing at the counter. Slow. Normal. Like I was practicing being calm. Then I sat back down and called. The receptionist transferred me, and a man with a steady voice came on the line. "This is Martin Geller." I said, "Hi. My name is Denise Parker. My father was Frank Parker. I have a trust document here that lists me as trustee. I think I need to understand exactly what my authority is." There was a pause, not awkward, just careful. "Denise, yes, I remember your father. Do you have time to come in tomorrow?" I told him I did. When I hung up, I didn't feel like I'd just declared war. It felt more like I'd finally locked my own front door. The next day at work, I went through my normal routine, checked patients in, answered phones, smiled when people asked how my weekend was. "Quiet," I said. That was true. I didn't mention the baptism. I didn't say the word humiliated. I didn't give anyone the story they'd expect. At lunch, I went out to my car and pulled up Brianna's Facebook again. More photos were up now. Noah in a white outfit. Brianna and Kyle grinning. Cynthia front and center like she was the main character. The caption said, "So blessed to have the people we love most here today." I stared at the photo until the screen dimmed. Then I noticed something in the comments. A woman from church wrote, "Beautiful day. Hope Noah's grandma Denise is doing okay. Didn't see her." Brianna hadn't replied. Kyle hadn't replied. They just let that hang there like a bad smell they refused to claim. That's when it hit me. They weren't just excluding me quietly. They were letting other people see it and fill in the blanks. They were letting me look like the kind of grandmother who couldn't be bothered to show up. That evening, I drove to Martin Geller's office. It smelled like old books and lemon cleaner. Martin was in his 60s. Silver hair, clean suit, no nonsense. He read the trust paperwork while I sat with my hands folded in my lap. When he looked up, His expression didn't change much. Denise, yes, you have broad discretion here. Your father was very intentional. Kyle cannot force distributions. He also cannot remove you unless there's proof of misconduct. I asked, what counts as estrangement? Martin didn't jump to drama. He asked questions. When did contact change? Any history of abuse, major conflict, threats? I said, no, I've been present, consistent. I got pushed out after he married Brianna. It got worse when the baby came. Martin nodded slowly. And you have documentation of being excluded? I thought about the texts, the Facebook post, the message that said her parents felt uncomfortable. Yes, I said, I can get it. Martin leaned forward just a little. Denise, I'm not telling you what to do. But your father wrote that clause to protect you from exactly one thing, being manipulated while someone treats you like you're disposable. Manipulated. That word landed like a weight, because suddenly a lot of little moments lined up in my head. Kyle asking, last month, if I could help with a down payment. Kyle saying, Grandpa would have wanted us to have a better place. Kyle getting irritated when I asked basic questions like, what's your budget? Or, have you talked to a lender? At the time, I thought he was just stressed. Now I wondered if he'd been following a script someone else wrote. I left Martin's office with a clear plan, and it wasn't revenge in the loud, petty sense. It was structure, boundaries with paperwork. The next step was simple. I needed proof of the shift, and I needed to stop having conversations that could be twisted later. So that night I went home, opened my laptop, and started a folder. I saved screenshots of Kyle's texts. I saved Brianna's baptism post with the comments. I saved the keeping it small message and the there's no place for you line that still played in my head like an echo. I didn't add captions. I didn't write paragraphs about how it made me feel. Just dates, times, facts. Then I did something I'd avoided for months. I looked up the duplex address in the trust paperwork and checked the lease renewal date. It was coming up soon. The tenants had been there 4 years, solid renters. My dad had always said, good tenants are gold. He was right. And Kyle had been hinting that he wanted to borrow against that property. He'd called it family equity like it was already his. I called the property manager the next morning and asked for a meeting. Again, calm. Normal. I'm the trustee, I said. I need the current financials and any pending maintenance requests. The manager didn't argue. She just said, of course. That afternoon, my sister Tara called me. We're not super close, but we keep in touch. She didn't bother with small talk. Denise, what happened at the baptism? I said, how did you hear? Tara gave a short laugh with no humor. Brianna's mom is running her mouth. She told Aunt Linda you tried to cause a scene and Kyle had to protect his new family. Protect. From me. I let that sit for a second. Then I said, I didn't cause a scene, I left. Tara was quiet and I could tell she was picturing it. Then she said, Denise, are you okay? I kept my voice level. I'm fine, but I'm done being painted as the problem. Tara exhaled, I don't like Brianna. I never have. But Kyle's, he's under her parents' thumb. I didn't argue. I just said, do you know if they're planning something? Financially? Tara hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything before she even spoke. He asked me if I'd co-sign for a bigger apartment. He said, you'd probably help too. Bigger apartment. Down payment. Co-sign. It wasn't just a baptism. It was a strategy. That night, Kyle finally called me. Not a text. A call. His voice was tight but sweet, like he was trying on a nicer version of himself. Hey, Mom, I said. Hi, Kyle. He waited like he expected me to apologize for existing. When I didn't, he went on. Look, Sunday was a lot. Brianna's parents are just traditional. They don't really get our dynamic. Our dynamic. Like I'd been some weird habit he was trying to break. I said, what dynamic is that? He sighed. You know, you can be intense. That word, intense. The same word Brianna had used months ago when I asked why I wasn't invited to Noah's first birthday dinner. I said, give me an example. Silence. He couldn't. Then he cleared his throat and shifted gears so fast it almost made me laugh. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you about something important. There it was, the real reason. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just said, okay. Kyle's voice warmed. We're looking at a townhouse. It's perfect for Noah. Good school district. But we're a little short on the down payment, and I was thinking, since Grandpa left that property stuff, maybe you could help us out. Just a loan. Repay you back. He said it like he was asking for a cup of sugar, like he hadn't just told me there was no place for me. I looked at my kitchen wall, at the little family photo from years ago when Kyle was still a kid, still holding my hand in public. And I made a decision without raising my voice. I said, send me the details in writing. He sounded relieved. Yeah, sure, I can do that. I said, and Kyle? Yeah? I paused just long enough. I won't discuss money over the phone. Put it in an email. He agreed too quickly. After we hung up, I didn't feel victorious. I felt ready. Because once he put it in writing, it wasn't going to be my word against theirs anymore. And the second that email hit my inbox, I'd have exactly what I needed to make my next move in a way they couldn't twist, couldn't cry about, and couldn't talk their way out of. Kyle's email hit my inbox the next morning at 6:12 a.m., like he'd been up all night rehearsing how to ask me for money without sounding like he'd just kicked me out of a church. The subject line was, house stuff. No love you, no sorry, just business. He wrote, Mom, we found a townhouse for $312K. We need $25K for down payment and closing. We can pay you back when we refinance or when Brianna goes back full-time. Since Grandpa's trust is for family, I'm hoping you can help. Also, please understand about the baptism. It was complicated. That one word was supposed to mop up everything. I forwarded the email to Martin Geller with one line. This is what I meant. Then I made coffee, fed my cat, and went to work like it was any other day. Around 10 a.m., Martin called me. Denise, keep this email. Don't respond emotionally. If you want to set conditions, we can do that cleanly. And if you decide not to distribute funds, you are within your authority. But I'd recommend you document the family estrangement and the coercive timing. I looked out the front window of the dental office at a minivan pulling into the lot, a mom juggling a diaper bag and a toddler. Life kept moving. I said, I want to handle this without yelling. I want it to be clear. Martin said, then we make it formal. That afternoon, I met Martin again. We drafted a simple, polite letter on his letterhead. It stated I was the trustee of Frank Parker's trust. It stated that all requests for distributions must go through the trustee in writing, and that no distributions would be considered until there was a family meeting to address communication and contact, and until Kyle and Brianna completed a basic financial review with a neutral advisor Martin recommended. Not to punish, to establish responsibility. And one more line, the one that mattered, the trust contains language regarding estrangement from immediate family without cause. Current circumstances may require the trustee to exercise discretion accordingly. Martin looked at me and said, this is firm, not cruel. I signed it. Then I asked him to send it certified mail to Kyle's address. I didn't text Kyle. I didn't warn him. I just let the paper do the talking. 2 days later, my phone rang at 8:47 p.m. Kyle's name lit up the screen. I answered. He didn't even say hi. What is this letter? His voice wasn't sweet anymore. Brianna was in the background saying something fast and sharp, like a coach feeding lines. I kept my tone even. It's exactly what it says. Kyle snapped. Why are you making this so formal? This is family. I said, family is also how you treated me at the baptism. Silence. Not guilt. Just recalculating. Then Kyle tried a softer angle. Mom, come on. Brianna's parents are just old school. They didn't want drama. I said, I didn't bring drama. I brought myself. Brianna's voice cut in loud enough for me to hear clearly. Denise, you always do this. You make everything about you. I didn't argue with her. I said, Brianna, I'm not discussing anything with you unless it's in person with Kyle and a neutral third party. Brianna let out this little laugh like I was ridiculous. Neutral third party? Are you serious? I said, yes. Kyle went quiet, then said, so you're not helping us. I didn't say no. I said, I'm saying we will meet, and then I will decide. He raised his voice. You're holding Grandpa over my head. That one actually stung because it was so backwards. Like my dad's careful planning was a weapon I invented. I said, Kyle, you asked for money 2 days after you told me there was no place for me. Another silence. Then he said colder, if you do this, you're going to lose us. I looked at my living room. At the same old couch, the same framed school photo of Kyle at 10 years old, missing one tooth. I said, I already lost you in that church lobby. I didn't hang up dramatically. I just said, I'll send you meeting times by email, and ended the call. After that, the smear campaign got louder. Tara texted me screenshots. Cynthia had posted one of those vague, dramatic Facebook statuses. Some people will use money to control you. Even family. Comments poured in, all her friends saying things like, stay strong, and toxic is toxic. Nobody used my name, but everybody knew. Then Brianna posted a photo of Noah with a caption about protecting our peace. The weird part was how much they wanted the internet to see them as victims, while privately they were still trying to pressure me. Kyle sent another email. If you don't give us the $25K by Friday, we lose the house. I forwarded that one to Martin too. Then, instead of reacting, I did the one thing they didn't expect. I showed up where their image actually mattered. It wasn't Facebook, it was their church. The same church that watched me get turned away. The next Sunday, I went to the service. Not the baptism, just a regular service. I sat in the back. I didn't talk to anyone. Afterward, I waited until most people cleared out. Then I walked up to the receptionist desk and asked, is Pastor Allen available for 5 minutes? The receptionist recognized me. Her eyes flipped with that oh no look, but she said, let me check. Pastor Allen came out. He was kind, middle-aged, the type who tries to keep peace. Denise, right? How can I help? I kept my voice low. Pastor, I'm not here to cause a scene. I just need to correct something before it becomes the story. He led me into a small office with 2 chairs. I told him only facts. I was not invited to my grandson's baptism. I showed up quietly. My son told me, in the lobby, in front of others, there's no place for you, Mom. I left. Since then, I've been publicly implied to be unstable. I'm not asking you to take sides. I'm asking you to be aware in case this turns into a church problem later. Pastor Allen listened. He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he said, did you do anything to provoke that response? I said, no, and if they claim I did, I'm willing to meet with you present. He nodded slowly. Thank you for handling it this way. When I walked out, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt protected, because now there was a witness with authority who knew the truth before the rumors landed. 3 days later, Kyle emailed again, but this time the tone was different, shorter, less confident. Pastor Allen wants to meet. Why did you talk to him? So word got back to them. Good. I replied with one sentence, because I won't let you rewrite what happened. The meeting happened that Friday in Pastor Allen's office. Kyle and Brianna sat together like a unit. Cynthia came too, which told me everything. She wasn't there for peace. She was there to manage. Pastor Allen opened with a simple question. What do you want going forward? Kyle started talking about boundaries and respect and Mom being intense. Pastor Allen held up a hand. Kyle, I need specifics. Kyle glanced at Brianna. She jumped in. Denise doesn't know her place. She shows up unannounced. I said calmly, name one time I showed up unannounced to your home in the last year. Brianna blinked. Cynthia jumped in. This is exactly what I mean. She twists everything. Pastor Allen looked at Cynthia. Ma'am, I asked Brianna. Cynthia sat back, annoyed. Kyle finally said, we just want our own family. I nodded. Then have it. Then have it. But you don't get to ask me for $25,000 and also erase me. Pastor Allen's eyes narrowed slightly. You asked your mother for money? Kyle's face went red. Brianna's mouth tightened. Cynthia started. That's not. Pastor Allen cut in, gentle but firm. Kyle, is that true? Kyle said, yes, but Pastor Allen leaned back. I'm going to be honest. Excluding your mother publicly and then requesting funds from a trust she manages, that's not a healthy dynamic. Nobody spoke. You could hear the air conditioner kick on. That was the moment the power shifted. not because I yelled. Because someone they cared about finally said out loud that it didn't look right. After the meeting, Kyle tried to talk to me alone in the hallway. His shoulders slumped a little. "Mom, I didn't mean it like that." I said, "I know you didn't plan the optics, but you said it." He asked, quieter, "So what now?" I said, "Now we rebuild like adults, or we don't." But the trust is not a reward for disrespect. The townhouse deal fell through, not because I ruined it, but because they were counting on my money like it was guaranteed. A month later, Kyle started calling me without asking for anything. Short calls, awkward at first, then longer. He brought Noah to a public park one Saturday and handed him to me like he wasn't sure I'd still want to hold him. I took my time. I said, "Hi, buddy," and Noah grabbed my finger like he'd known me forever. Brianna stayed near the car, arms crossed, watching. Cynthia didn't come. Later, Kyle admitted quietly, "Brianna's parents said you'd embarrass us. They said keeping you out would be easier." I didn't celebrate hearing that. I just said, "Easier for who?" He didn't answer. If you've made it this far, you already know it wasn't really about a baptism. It was about whether I'd accept being treated like an inconvenience while still being useful. I didn't burn the family down, I just stopped being the silent ATM, and once I did, the truth got loud all on its own.